You did everything right. You planted them in a beautiful spot, you water them, you even talk to them sometimes. But every single season, your hydrangeas just sit there. All leaves, no blooms, not one flower. Here's the hard truth. Hydrangeas are not difficult plants. They're actually incredibly generous bloomers. But they are unforgiving of a very specific set of mistakes. And most people are making at least 3 or 4 of them without even knowing it. In this video, you're going to find out exactly what's been sabotaging your hydrangeas. Not the vague, recycled tips you've already read 100 times, but the actual, specific reasons your plant has been holding out on you. By the end of this, you'll know precisely what to fix, and you'll go into next season with a real shot at those full, lush blooms you've been waiting for. Let's get into it. Number 1, you're pruning at the worst possible time of year. This one single mistake accounts for more bloomless hydrangeas than almost anything else, and it's completely avoidable. Most hydrangeas, specifically the classic mophead and lacecap varieties, bloom on what's called old wood. That means the flower buds for next summer actually form on this year's stems in late summer and fall. So when you go out in autumn and give your shrub a tidy haircut, or worse, cut it all the way back in early spring thinking you're being responsible, you've just removed every single bud the plant spent months building. The result? A perfectly healthy, vigorous plant with absolutely nothing to show come June. The rule is simple. If you don't know what type of hydrangea you have, don't prune it at all. If you do know it blooms on old wood, the only safe pruning window is immediately after it finishes flowering. Never in fall, never in spring. Number 2, you planted it, where the afternoon sun can find it. Everyone knows hydrangeas love shade, but shade is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence because not all shade is created equal. What most people get wrong is they plant their hydrangea where it gets morning shade and then full afternoon sun. And afternoon sun in summer isn't just bright, it's hot, and it's sustained. Hydrangeas exposed to that kind of heat spend so much of their energy managing stress and conserving moisture that they simply don't have the resources left over to produce flowers. The ideal placement is the opposite: morning sun and afternoon shade. That eastern exposure gives your plant the gentle, energizing light it needs early in the day and protects it from the brutal heat later on. If you're consistently getting leaves but no blooms and your plant looks tired by midday, this is almost certainly the problem. Number 3, you're overfeeding it the wrong nutrient. You want your hydrangea to thrive, so you fertilize it. That's good instinct. But the type of fertilizer you're using might be the exact thing stopping it from blooming. Most standard fertilizers are high in nitrogen. Nitrogen is the nutrient that drives lush, green, vigorous leaf growth. And hydrangeas will absolutely take you up on that offer. They'll push out beautiful, dense foliage all season long. The problem is that when a plant is busy with vegetative growth, it deprioritizes reproduction. Flowers are reproduction. No urgency, no blooms. What you actually want to use is a fertilizer with a low nitrogen number and higher phosphorus. Phosphorus is the nutrient that directly supports root development and flowering. Look for a fertilizer labeled specifically for flowering shrubs, or check that the middle number in the NPK ratio on the bag is the highest of the 3. And apply it in early spring, not midsummer when it's too late to influence the current season's bloom cycle. Number 4, a late frost quietly killed your buds. This one is sneaky because by the time you realize it happened, there's nothing you can do about it. If your hydrangea bloomed fine last year, but this year it's just sitting there looking healthy and green with nothing happening, go back and think about your late spring weather. A single hard frost in April or May, after your plant had already started pushing out its tender new growth and developing buds, can kill those buds completely. The plant looks completely normal. It continues to grow. It just won't flower because the buds that were forming are already dead. If you live somewhere with unpredictable late frosts, this may be a recurring issue. The solution is either to cover your plants when a late frost is forecast, or to switch to a hydrangea variety that blooms on new wood, like Annabelle or the Incrediball series, so late frost damage doesn't strip you of the whole season. Number 5. You're watering on a schedule instead of a signal. Hydrangeas are famously dramatic when they're thirsty. The leaves droop in a very obvious way, and that causes a lot of gardeners to water heavily and often to avoid that sight. The problem is that overwatering, or watering without checking the soil first, can be just as harmful as underwatering. Soil that stays consistently waterlogged becomes oxygen depleted at the root level. Roots in that environment can't function properly, and a plant with compromised roots puts everything into survival, not flowering. Instead of watering on a fixed schedule, check the soil. Push your finger about 2 inches down. If it's still moist, wait. If it's dry, water deeply. And always make sure you've planted in well-draining soil or have improved your drainage before planting. A beautiful hydrangea sitting in a poorly drained spot is always going to underperform, no matter what else you do right. Number 6. Your soil pH is working against you. Here's something most people never think to check. Hydrangeas are one of the few plants where soil pH doesn't just affect color, it can affect bloom performance at the root level. Extremely alkaline soil locks out certain nutrients even if they're technically present in the soil. If your pH is too high, your plant may be sitting in nutrient-locked conditions where it literally can't absorb what it needs to flower, even if you've been fertilizing consistently. Get an inexpensive soil test kit. The sweet spot for most hydrangeas is a pH between 6.0 and 6.5. If you're significantly above that, you can lower it over time with elemental sulfur or by amending with acidic compost. It takes patience. pH shifts don't happen overnight, but it can make a dramatic difference in long-struggling plants. Number 7. You moved it or planted it too recently. Hydrangeas are slow to forgive relocation. If you transplanted yours, even carefully, don't be surprised if it skips a blooming season or two. When a hydrangea is transplanted, it goes into a kind of recovery mode. All of its energy diverts to reestablishing its root system in the new location. Flowering is a luxury the plant postpones until it feels secure. The same thing happens with newly purchased nursery plants. They've been through handling, transport, and the shock of moving into your garden. Some bloom the first year, many don't. If you've recently moved your hydrangea and it's not blooming, don't panic and don't fertilize it heavily trying to push it. Just give it consistent water, minimal disturbance, and time. Once it's reestablished, it'll reward your patience. Number 8. You're not deadheading correctly, or at all. Deadheading spent blooms can encourage some hydrangea varieties to rebloom, but the way you do it matters enormously. If you're snapping off dead flower heads without a second thought, you might be cutting right through dormant buds that are forming just below the spent bloom. On reblooming varieties, those buds are your next wave of flowers. Cut too far down and you've eliminated them. The correct technique is to cut just below the dead flower head, maybe 1 or 2 sets of leaves at most. Look for the small, swelling buds at the leaf axils before you make your cut. On old wood bloomers, your safest option is often to leave the spent blooms through winter entirely and remove them very carefully in early spring, cutting only the dead flower head itself and nothing below it. Number 9. You're growing the wrong variety for your climate. Not every hydrangea belongs in every garden, and if you've been fighting a losing battle for years, it might simply be a variety mismatch. Big leaf hydrangeas, the classic ones with the big round flower heads, are beautiful but temperamental in cold climates. They need mild winters to protect those buds. If you're in a zone where temperatures regularly drop below freezing for extended periods, those buds die back every winter and your plant starts from zero every spring with nothing to bloom on. The fix isn't to work harder, it's to plant smarter. Panicle hydrangeas are extremely cold-hardy and bloom heavily even in harsh conditions. Smooth hydrangeas like Annabelle are bulletproof in most climates. If you're in a warm, humid region, big leaves are perfect. If you're in a colder zone, research varieties specifically rated for your zone before you plant. Number 10. You're expecting blooms too early in the plant's life. This last one is painfully simple, and yet it's responsible for a lot of unnecessary frustration. Young hydrangeas often just don't bloom yet. A hydrangea planted from a small nursery pot needs time to establish a root system large enough to support flowering. Depending on the variety and conditions, that can take 1, 2, or even 3 full growing seasons. During that time, the plant is doing exactly what it should, investing in roots and structure, but it won't look like it's doing anything at all. If your plant is young, healthy, growing vigorously, and just not flowering, give it another season. Don't cut it back, don't overfeed it, don't move it, just let it mature. That patience is almost always rewarded with an explosion of blooms the season everything finally clicks. So there you have it, 10 real, specific reasons your hydrangeas have been holding out on you. And the honest thing is, most people are dealing with a combination of 2 or 3 of these at once, which is exactly why the problem feels so stubborn. Start with the most likely culprits first: pruning timing, sun exposure, and fertilizer type. Fix those 3, and you'll already be ahead of the vast majority of frustrated hydrangea growers out there. If this helped you finally understand what's been going wrong, make sure you hit that like button. It really does help this channel reach more people who are dealing with the same thing. And subscribe if you want more straightforward, no-fluff plant and garden content just like this. Drop a comment below and tell me, which one of these mistakes do you think has been your problem? I read every single one. See you in the next video.